Hello, good morning, Mr. Peter White. How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Yes, and thanks for taking the time to chat with myself and the Muzilog crew and the Muzilog listeners, and also the associate radio station LMB Network. So we want to talk about your new project that you have coming down the pipes later on this month. And it's entitled, well, I'll let you say the title. How's that?
The title is Groovin, which is after the title track by the Young Rascals, if you remember, from the 60s. And,
yes.
A lot of people don't know. Actually, their record company was not into putting out that song as a single because it didn't have any drums on it, and they thought it was way too light. I think it only has congas on it, and the harmonica and a few other instruments. But I think they eventually put it out on their own label, or something like that, because the record company, and it just goes to show the record companies back then were the same as record companies nowadays. They often don't know. They often don't know what the public really likes. And they were wrong about that because it's a huge hit. You still hear that song every day. Lovely song.
Yes, it is. And like you're right. Sometimes we may think the public wants a certain thing, and then it's a totally different thing that the public gravitates to in the end.
Yes, whenever I put out a CD, I never know which is the song that people are going to gravitate to, and I honestly don't. And I'm not good at picking singles, so I leave that to other people. But it also tells me that there's very often one song on the album that a lot of people react to. Now, I would never have seen that coming. And I don't know which song it will be on this album. We'll find out.
Okay. So now, reading the notes, they pretty much said that this project is where you left off from the Reflections and the Reflections album and playing favorites. So I'm curious, what was the inspiration to take another approach of doing an album with covers?
Because I had a lot of ideas left over from the last album, and I like to do this every 10, 11 years or so. It's fun for me to take songs from my youth, because I was a teenager in the 70s, and just to do them in my own way and kind of relive those moments, those yesteryear moments. I don't know whether it's because I'm older now that the music of today doesn't really grab me like the music of the 70s did, and I can't tell if it's because me, I'm getting older, or whether the music actually really was better back in the 70s. And I tend to think that's probably the case. I've always said in my shows that I love to play music from the 70s because that was the best time for music. And also, the late 60s and the early 80s, that's really the period of music that I always gravitate to when I'm going to perform some cover songs.
Yeah, the 70s and the 80s, I think music had its great climax. This is just me, especially in the analog world. I think music had its biggest climax like during the 90s, and then we started shifting to the digital platform. But the 70s and the 80s, you had to definitely use your imagination then. So if you didn't have much imagination, you didn't come out with music.
See, here's a good point, that with the digital world, there's a lot more production values at our disposal now. So it's not so important to have a great song. You can take a song which is okay and make it sound great with production. Back in the old days, because you didn't have that production, except, if you wanted to put an orchestra on top of the song, well, that would be a production value. But apart from that, you had to have a great song because you didn't have any other, as I said, the computerized production values that you have now to make it sound good. It had to be good, not just. Yeah,
you make a good point there. Yeah. So, who are the folks you worked with on this project?
I did a lot of it myself, and I play. I think I play all the keyboards. And there's a lot of people don't know that I play keyboards as well as guitar. In fact, I write songs mainly on keyboard. And when I started my career, when I was 20 years old, with Al Stewart's band, he hired me to play piano. Because he already had a guitar player. So it's mostly me playing the piano and the guitar on this album. I brought in Rick Braun on the title track, Groovin, because I knew there was something missing, and I thought, what can I do to make this song whole? And it suddenly came to me, of course, Rick Braun. Whenever I call on Rick, and he's a really good friend, and we've played on each other's songs for many years. So it was an easy thing for me to call him and say, hey, can you listen to this song and just add whatever you feel you could add? I never told him what to play. I just sent him the song. I just said, play whatever you feel. And what he came back with was fantastic and really made the song on the muted trumpet.
The muted trumpet, okay. Trumpet or trombone, I'm sorry?
Trumpet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not to throw anything too bad in the conversation, but I just recently interviewed Richard Elliott.
Yes.
And so the name Rick Braun came up.
Well, we've all played together. Richard and I have been playing shows for over 20 years together now. So,
oh, wow.
We're all old pals, and Richard has recorded. In fact, on my last album of cover songs, which is called Playing Favorites, Richard played on that album brilliantly, I might say.
Okay, it's a small world. Okay.
Yes, so, and also another special guest I have on the song, which was a hit by an English band called Ace. The song is called How Long, which is another song you still hear every day on the radio today. And it was the first hit song by a young singer called Paul Carrack, who later went on to many other great things. But I had Vincent Ingala, who's a young saxophone player coming up. And Vincent's been playing with me ever since he was 18. And he was amazing then. And he was, he's still amazing now. Just as amazing, if not better. And I'm very glad to have him on the album. So Rick and Vincent, I think, are my biggest sort of contemporary jazz stars appearing on the album. I have a whole lot of other great artists, in the background parts.
So you're a multi-instrumentalist, I see. And you're almost like Prince, doing your programming, or Prince or Kashif, or one of those guys.
Yes, I would never compare myself to Prince. But you will also find on one of the songs, you will also find at least maybe 2 or 3 of the songs, you'll find me playing accordion as well.
Oh, okay.
That's another of my lesser-known talents.
Okay. Well, bring it all out. That's what I would say. So, what was the approach to choose the songs for this album?
Well, that's a very good question. There have to be. There's at least 3 criteria that I can think of. Is that the correct way to say it? One, I have to like the song. And from that era, some, late 50s, 60s, 70s. And 2, I want to be able to record this song in a way that is different from the original. To the point that on many of the songs, if you took my guitar, my lead guitar, the melody guitar, off the track, you would not be able to identify the song. That is my purpose. Now, there are some songs, of course, that you have to use some of the arrangement, like when I Heard It Through the Grapevine on this album, that electric piano riff in the intro is something that I had to keep because it's such a big part of the song. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, you had to keep that.
What's interesting is that the Gladys Knight version, which was a hit previously, doesn't have that riff in it. It was a completely different approach to that song. So I'm doing the Marvin Gaye version, which was, the Marvin Gaye version was the hit in England. We never heard the Gladys Knight version in England. We only heard the Marvin Gaye version. And I lived in England until I was 23. So
Well, what was it like living out there, but being influenced by music from the U.S.?
Well, I listened to the radio like everyone else, and I was listening to the Beatles because the Beatles probably really got me interested in learning to play the guitar. And then the Rolling Stones very soon after that. So I think the first Rolling Stones hit was a Beatles song, a song that Lennon and McCartney wrote. I Want to Be Your Man.
Okay.
That was written by the Beatles, and they met and they became friends. And Paul McCartney said, "Hey, take this song," and they had a hit with it. So Rolling Stones and the Beatles came up at the same time, and that really influenced me because that was very heavily guitar-oriented music, and I just loved the sound of the guitar. But alongside the Beatles and the Rolling Stones on the radio, I started to hear Motown, just like everyone else, and that was not so much guitar-driven music, but I still loved it.
Yes,
yes. So I over there in my little town in England, growing up, was listening to the same music that everyone over here was listening to, and being influenced by that.
Well, major shout out to Mr. Berry Gordy for bringing Motown into existence there.
Yes. But do you know that it was Berry Gordy who dismissed Marvin Gaye's version of "Heard It Through the Grapevine"? He says, "No, this will not fly. I need the guy that wrote the song. Don't quote me on this. Was it Norman Whitfield? I'll have to look this up. Anyway, they recorded a different version with Gladys Knight, and Berry Gordy said, "That's the hit song. That's the hit version right there," and that was released, and Marvin Gaye's version was suppressed until the following year, when Marvin finally released his LP, which contained that song as an album track. And so many DJs, especially the ones in Detroit, started playing it from the album. Now, you know how difficult it is to find a song on an album. You have to put the needle down in exactly the right place.
Yes.
So they would really go out on a limb to play this song on the air. And the song got so many spins on the radio that Motown was forced to release it as a single, and the rest is history.
Wow, you just gave me a little lesson there.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a music historian. I love to find out the background of how songs were recorded, who wrote the songs, who's playing on the song, stuff like that. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and ironically, our conversation, we started talking about record companies not really knowing at all. I mean, here is another example where, you had Berry Gordy, who brought Motown into existence pretty much from a visionary aspect, especially with, black music and the challenges of living, being black back then. What they had to deal with, so you have the record company, and then he's now saying, "Hey, I don't like that version."
Well, I think he got caught up. I think Berry Gordy is a genius. I mean, everybody agrees with that. But I think he got caught up with trying to second-guess the public taste, and we talked about this a little earlier. And when he heard the Gladys Knight version, it sounded a bit like Aretha Franklin's Respect, because I think that's what they were trying to do. If you listen to Respect by Aretha Franklin and then listen to Heard It Through the Grapevine by Gladys Knight, it's a very similar rhythm. It's a very similar approach. And I think because Respect was a huge hit at that time, Berry Gordy was trying to second-guess the public and saying, well, this sounds like Aretha Franklin. We're trying to compete with Aretha Franklin, so let's put this out to compete with Aretha Franklin. He didn't see the beauty of the Marvin Gaye version, which was recorded previously. And maybe he did, but maybe he went against his better judgment, because as a businessman, he thought that the Gladys Knight version had a much better chance of being a hit, because it sounded like something that was already on the radio.
Well, you gave me some homework there. I'm definitely going to check that, because I love the backstories of the songs as well. So that's really nice right there. Let me jump over here and see what else I was planning to to ask you. So one of the things I wanted to find out, I was also reading your bio. So are you from a musical family as well?
My father
Mm-hmm.
was well, he wasn't a professional musician, but he was a music lover, and he played the piano
Mm-hmm.
for his enjoyment. And I remember my mother famously said one day, you know, back then we didn't have any furniture. This is when I was, you know, probably 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he bought a piano. And we had no furniture. And I'm glad that he did. Because I started plinking away at that piano, and, you know, my father, seeing that I was interested, you know, started to teach me, and he taught me to read music. And, you know, I learned very much by ear. Later, I did take piano lessons, and but I think most of what I learned was listening to the radio and playing by ear, just recreating what I heard on the piano and then on the guitar later. I never had a lesson on the guitar. Everything I've learned was by listening to the radio and just trying to copy what I heard.
Wow! Shout outs to that, you know, for getting the piano instead of the furniture. You might have been a carpenter today. Yeah. Well, that's a cool story, though. I like that. Now, I like the approach on a couple of the songs. The one that kind of had me turning my head a little bit was "Never Knew Love Like This Before."
Yes, I knew. I somehow knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I had to turn my head a little, like, you know, I like the road feeling there, and it was a nice feel, very, very nice feel.
Because these today and yesterday is the first time I've actually started to do interviews talking about this album with people who have actually heard the album. Very few people have actually heard the album at this point. I always liked that song, and you know, as with all of these songs that I do, I try to imagine if I had never heard this version, and if someone just played me the melody or sang the melody to me, how would I record this without thinking or even being aware of the version that I know that has been recorded? Just trying to keep that out of the picture. And I had this little portable keyboard, which is right here, which has its own rhythms built into it, and I just started playing around with that, and I thought, well, this is quite a nice approach. I think the sound that starts, there's a synthesizer sound, like a little pitter-patter thing that starts. That actually comes from that portable keyboard. And also the bass line comes from that too, I think. And
you're a dangerous guy, man. You're dangerous out there.
I thought this is fun because I like electronic, what they call EDM, electronic dance music.
Yeah.
I sometimes, when I'm on the long plane flight, I'll just listen to electronic dance music just over and over again because it fills your head completely, and you don't remember that you're sitting in a long metal tube hurtling through the air. And if there's any turbulence, you really don't care because your head is full of music. That being the most frantic, sort of the most energetic kind of music, sometimes that's what I listen to.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to approach it, you know, and some chewing gum just to help with the air pressure, you know, in the ears.
Yeah.
Overall, I like the feel of the record. You know, the arrangements make you think a little bit, you know, and I think because it's the arrangements sort of help platform the song in a new way for the listeners, you know. So I'm thinking that the listeners would really enjoy
on that song.
Project.
Never Knew Love Like This Before. You'll hear my accordion on the intro.
I'm gonna zone in again and check that out.
Yeah, that's me playing the accordion. So you would never expect to hear an accordion at that moment, but you know, hey, I'm here to surprise you.
Yes. Well, that's good. That's good. So it's interesting to hear that you like EDM. What are some of the artists you have in your MP3 player right now?
Well, there are
now you
so
don't
many...
have to give me the whole list. Maybe
well,
three or four.
Yes, EDM music. What I do is, when there used to be record stores, I every time I passed through Heathrow Airport, I would go to a little record store, CD store in the airport in London, which is not there anymore. I mean, not the airport. The CD store is not there anymore. But I would buy these dance compilation CDs of all these hits that were hits in Europe, not necessarily hits in America. And I just fill my my computer with those. There's a song by a group called Scooter called "Here Comes the Night," which I could play 30 times in a row and never get tired of it. And also, of course, I listen to the Beatles. Just the same music I listened to when I was a kid. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones. I'm on a Beach Boys kick right now.
Oh, okay.
If you notice, that there are, I was just talking to my daughter here.
Oh, okay.
Just let him know. If you'll notice on the album, there are actually a lot of background vocals, and there are more background vocals on this album than any album I've ever recorded. And I know how difficult it is to record background vocals and make them sound perfect. And when I listen to the Beach Boys, I just gasp and wonder how they did that. There's never a misstep there, and I know they did it all live. 4 or 5 of them. They
were amazing.
4 or 5 of them standing around one microphone, and every one of them had to be perfect for the take to be right. So I'm on a huge Beach Boys kick right now.
Okay. Yes.
But, also, Mozart,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Tchaikovsky. I have a saying that whenever I start digging myself, in other words, whenever you think, I'm pretty good, you listen to Tchaikovsky or Mozart, and you realize that you've got a long way to go.
Yes.
It's a humbling moment,
Yes. I get into Mozart and Bach and Handel myself.
Handel, yes.
Sometimes they just remind us. They remind us that we're trying to kneel at their feet there.
Yeah. And what did they have? They had a piece of paper and a pencil and a piano, and all this amazing orchestration just sprang out from their head.
Yeah, imagination itself.
And when you talk about Mozart, if you talk about Mozart's last symphony, he may never have heard it. He may have heard it once. I've heard it at least 100 times. He maybe heard it once when it was being performed.
That might have been a piece that he had a friend, I think, because I think he died pretty young, right? And he had a friend that was...
Mozart died when he was 35, and very soon after the last... because they didn't have recordings then, of course. So if you wanted to hear your symphony, you had to assemble an entire orchestra, and how often does that happen?
Not often at all.
No. So you'd hear the performance, and then that was it.
Yeah, and I think when I was studying him a little bit, he was kind of on his deathbed, and there was someone writing music.
Well, it was Salieri. That's in the movie. Salieri helps him to finish the Requiem, which he's writing, and he never actually finished it. He died before it was finished. So other people finished the Requiem for him, which is also a wonderful piece of music, which I listen to when I'm on a long plane journey, because that's really the only time I really listen to music without any distractions. Is on a long plane.
Yes. I can identify with you on that, because when you have other things going on, and it's just hard to zone in until you have a moment for yourself.
Totally different. When I was a kid, it was totally different, and that was music all the time then, and there weren't so many distractions then.
Well, nobody had less responsibilities, I take it.
And no one had the internet back then.
And no internet, yeah, that too. You know, what did we do without the internet? You know.
Yes.
Yes. So I see you have a very tight schedule. I was looking at your schedule dates, and we actually did post one of the posts yesterday from my publication from Muzilog. So you seem to you'll be very busy from tomorrow, actually.
Yes, and I just came back from Barbados. I was there last weekend, and I flew to Barbados from England, and right before then I was in Poland, and right before then I was in Portugal.
Oh man!
So, I've been traveling transatlantic, and I just got back a few days ago, actually. And but it starts again tomorrow. Tomorrow I play on the beach on Catalina Island, literally on the beach. Descanso Beach, with my good friend Marc Antoine, a wonderful French guitar player. And we've been friends for a long time. And we're doing a show on the beach, part of a festival called the Jazz Tracks annual festival on Catalina Island.
All right. So and then you have a Christmas portion of the tour with Rick Braun. This guy, he keeps coming. I need to probably interview this guy.
Well, I think he's working. I know he's working on a new album, and it may not be out this year, but it'll be out early next year. But Rick is great. We've been doing this Christmas tour together for over 10 years now, annually, and this year Huge Groove will join us.
Okay.
That starts the day after Thanksgiving and goes all the way through till, I think, December the 23rd, all around the U.S.
Okay.
And you will catch me, if you catch the show, you'll catch me doing Elvis, because I do a little Elvis impression.
Does this include a costume, or?
I have the wig, the Elvis hair, and the aviator sunglasses that with attached sideburns.
Okay.
It looks kind of funny, but it always gets a laugh. So we do things in the Christmas show that we don't do.
Okay.
The rest of the year round, I would never do Elvis, but we try to get a laugh out of the audience, try to do something different. And I can sing Blue Christmas. Funnily enough, I'm not really a singer, but for some reason I can sing Blue Christmas by Elvis.
Well, I believe the audience would definitely be entertained on that one.
They seem to be. Every year I say to the guys, I really don't have to do Elvis this time. And they go, no, you have to do Elvis. Okay.
So you're locked in.
I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, they stuck you. But in good spirit, though, in good spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, so is there anything, I think we pretty much covered everything. The album is going to be out on the 28th of October.
Yes.
And, it's an album of amazing covers. And I'm sure that the listening audience would definitely appreciate a project like this.
Something for everybody. Everybody knows these songs. You'll not find anybody... at least living in the U.S. or in Europe that doesn't know these songs, and I hopefully they like my spin on these songs.
I believe they will. Not that I'm saying for everyone, but I thought the approach was very, very current, very. Savvy, clever. There's some clever things I heard in there. So, I believe this is going to be a really nice project for the listening audience to have as a collection in their collection. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that.
And thank you for taking the time to chat with us over here. And is there anything else that I may not have asked that you might want to talk about, or did we?
No, I think we've covered it. So, if anybody wants any more information, I'm easily found. My email address is on my website. That's kind of unusual for an artist to do that, but it's been there for 20 years. So people write to me from all over the world, and I'm pretty good at writing back. And you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter, all the usual places.
Okay, listening audience, you can reach out to Mr. Peter White.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.